Welcome to Galway Early Music's contribution to the European Day of Early Music, the 21st of March 2021. My name is Helen Hancock. I'm a soprano and a recorder player based here in Galway, and this year I'm taking part in two events for Early Music Day. One of them is Passaggio in Italia, which is a concert where I'm a soprano and a recorder player. But today I'm going to take you through a recorder workshop where you're going to learn a new piece from scratch if you're a beginner, or you'll learn to polish up your skills if you're a bit rusty as a recorder player. The first thing is to introduce the recorder we're going to use. I'm using an Aulis, descant or soprano recorder. Aulis is the brand. There are several brands available and they're all pretty good. The plastic descant recorder is really very robust. There's not a lot that can go wrong with it, but it comes in three sections and it's important to make sure that each of the three sections are fully pushed in. So that's the head joint, that this middle joint is pushed into that, and then the bottom here is pushed in fully, and also that it's turned a little bit to the side to accommodate the pinky finger of your right hand. The recorder is played a little bit differently to the tin whistle. The tin whistle can be played right hand over left or left hand over right, but in the case of the recorder you need to do left hand on top and right hand down low, because otherwise this turned little seventh hole at the bottom won't work for your little pinky finger. The tin whistle is an instrument a lot of people are familiar with in Ireland. It's a traditional Irish music instrument, and again, many people will have been introduced to that in school. And if they come to the recorder having played the tin whistle before, it's important to point out some differences. So the recorder has 7 holes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and number 7. The bottom 2 holes on the recorder have 2 holes in each of them, allowing a greater range of notes to be played and a greater number of keys to be played. But the biggest difference is that there's a thumb hole in the back of the descant recorder. There's no hole in the back of a tin whistle. So the most important thing to learn first is to make sure you cover the thumb hole fully, not half covered, but fully cover it and keep it covered for now. Then there are 6 holes initially. The first index finger in the left hand, the middle finger, the 4th finger. The pinky in the left hand doesn't have any job to do. Then in the right hand, you place your thumb underneath the first hole for the right hand to support the recorder, and that thumb must remain there at all times. And then you'll either be playing various combinations with your index finger, your middle finger, your 4th finger, and then occasionally the pinky, and that'll cover the 7 holes of the recorder. Because you're blowing into a recorder, you're blowing hot air into it, and hot air will easily condense inside the tube of the recorder and result in liquid blocking it. So every so often the sound will go and you need to give it a cleaning blow. So you place your finger very gently here in this little gap and just blow. One little short sharp blow is all you need, and you'll need to do that every so often and initially before you start to. Recorder needs a few minutes to warm up, particularly in cold weather, so be patient with it. If you're playing on a wooden recorder, wooden recorders are more expressive. They're also a little bit more temperamental. If you buy a wooden recorder for the first time, it will need to be broken in per the instructions that come with it, 5 minutes a day initially. And you need to follow those instructions carefully, and you need to carry out the cleaning regime that's recommended, because wooden recorders, being made of wood, need to be minded differently. The plastic one really is, it's quite indestructible. It doesn't really need much by way of cleaning. Although if a recorder gets really dirty, it's no harm, a little bit of washing up liquid and water every so often and dry it out in a hot press overnight, not on a radiator. And that's about all the maintenance and care that a recorder needs. Okay, so what are we going to learn today? The piece we're going to learn is called Kommt, Spielen. This piece was originally a folk song or a singspiel, where girls and boys were taunting each other, and this song was sung over and back between the boys and the girls to ward away the winter and to herald in the arrival of spring and summer, to bring in the better weather. So it's a good choice for the time we're in at this time of year. This piece begins on a high D, which is the hardest note we're going to have to learn. So for now, I'm going to teach you some of the notes that come later on in the piece to start off, where we can make things a little bit easier. The first note I'll teach you today is B. So first of all, you need to cover the thumb hole with your left hand, and the first hole with your index finger, and that's B. When you're holding the note B, you will always support with your right hand thumb. You never hold the recorder with just one hand, because soon enough you'll be playing notes with both hands. So you need to be in the habit of holding the recorder with the right hand from the get-go. So the B is played like this. Now, there are two ways to blow or articulate when you're playing the recorder. One is to use the t, t, t sound with your tongue, and that produces a clean, crisp sound like this. If you don't do the t, t action with your tongue and just blow randomly, you'll get a sound more like this, which is the sound you might associate hearing children playing the recorder with, and that will not be a very good sound. It's important that the air going into the recorder is regulated at its onset by the tongue, and that produces a very clean sound. So t, 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 and that's your first note, B. Your second note is A. A is two fingers of the left hand and your thumb. And again, we'll support with the thumb of the right hand, and we'll play it like this. And now the next thing you need to learn to do is to go from B to A. And when you're used to doing that and you've practiced that a little bit, the next thing I want you to do is learn the note G. G is formed by placing the index finger, the third finger and the fourth finger of the left hand and covering the thumb hole, supporting with the right hand thumb. Now, at this point when you play the note G and you're covering more holes with your fingers, sometimes the thumb will have a tendency to have wandered off its hole and you might get a funny sound like, and that's the sound you get when the thumb hole is not covered. So make sure as you start to cover more and more holes that you don't forget about this thumb around the back. Keep it covered fully. So B-A-G sounds like this. And that's the first three notes. Now, in this workshop, we're going to learn more notes. The next one after G is a note called F sharp. Now, if you're new to music, you might say, why is it called sharp? Well, on a piano, we have white notes and we have black notes. The black notes are sharps or flats. And in many cases, in order for a scale to sound right, as do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, some of the black notes are needed to make a scale sound right, to keep it very simple. So the F sharp must be an F sharp in this scale. It's not an F. Now, if you're a tin whistle player or you've had experience of playing tin whistle, you may have played F like this with the first finger of the right hand. That is not how you play it with the recorder. In the recorder, you actually have to put down the bottom two holes. Now, this may initially confuse you. So what I would suggest to get it reliably correct is to put down the 6 holes, 3 in the left, 3 in the right. When you're solid with that, lift this finger here. And that's the way you produce F sharp. So this 6th hole can only ever be covered with that 4th finger. This 5th hole can only ever be covered with this 3rd finger. And if this top hole here, the top one for the right hand, is not covered, then it means that this index finger is the one that's idle. You can't go swapping around fingers. Never ever do that. Always cover this finger with this hole and this finger onto this hole. So that's F sharp. So let's now practice going down the steps of the stairs, the 4 notes we've learned so far. B, A, G, F sharp. Notice what I'm doing. I'm placing the mouthpiece of the recorder on my chin. And as I form the fingering for each note, I'm saying the note name aloud. I find this is really helpful for getting into your head the name of the note and corresponding that with the correct fingers. B, A, G, F sharp. Now, one more note to go another step of the stairs down is the note E. E is formed by swapping over like this. Number 3 is up. Now it's quite strange. When you're going down the stairs from B, A, G, F sharp, E. It's weird because you place the two lower fingers for F sharp, and then for a note that's even lower again, you swap that way. So you're covering upper fingers for a lower note, which is a bit confusing. As you'll see, when you go from F sharp to E, the finger that's in common is the third finger, which I'm wiggling now. But what you have to do is lift this one and simultaneously place that one. Lift this one, place that one. And as you can see, the two outer fingers become like a seesaw, going up and down. If you play F sharp to E, it sounds clean now the way I'm playing it. However, if you lift and place the fingers not quite synchronously, you're going to get a sound that's more like this. Sorry. This kind of messy sound. So it's very important to practice this, maybe even in front of a mirror, where you have your F sharp first, lift and drop, lift and drop, lift and drop, lift and drop. Now the fingers don't have to go too high up. In fact, they only need to go a small bit up, but it's nice to kind of bounce them like that. And if you hear the sound, that's the sound of F sharp to E without even having to blow. So now we know 5 notes. B, A, G, F sharp, E. And the last one is easy, it's D. You just put the 6th finger down. Now, starting a phrase on a D is difficult because it's a low note. It can be quite hard at the beginning. A low D will often go up the octave without you wanting it to and sound like this. And in fact, on a tin whistle, if you're playing D and you want to get the higher D, you just basically cover 6 holes and blow harder. And there's your high D. But in this case, we don't want our high D to squeak. And we don't want it to happen without us meaning it for it to happen. And actually, the high D has a different fingering. So anyway, back to low D. If you want to get a low D successfully, you need to blow with less breath pressure and tilt your chin in. And that'll allow you to produce a D. Initially, you probably will find it squeaking. But if you approach D from higher notes going gradually downwards, it'll be more successful. So if you start with B, A, G, F sharp, E, D, then the D will come more easily because you'll be going down gradually to lower and lower notes. Let's play those 6 notes now. 6 notes of all the steps of the stairs from B down to D. And that's the second half of our piece, already learnt. The first half of the piece needs a couple of extra notes, and these should be practiced on a different day. I suggest you take this workshop in sections and practice different things on different days and eventually build it up into the whole piece. The piece begins with a high D. The high D is achieved completely differently to low D. So low D is this, and D an octave higher is. Now if you did this, if you blow a low D harder, you'll get a high D, but it's not quite in tune and I don't recommend it. D is supposed to be played like this on the recorder. So what is this? This is a tricky little note to play. Only finger that we have covering a hole in this particular arrangement of fingers is the middle finger of the left hand. And the recorder has to be supported by the thumb of the right hand, otherwise it'll fall. And the thumb comes off. So for the purposes of this piece, this is the only note where your thumb will come off. For all the other ones, the thumb will stay down. So let's practice starting on a D. Before you begin to play, I would always take the recorder and put 6 fingers over 6 holes to begin with. And be ready to play, and then to get to a D, lift everything off except the third finger in the left hand. And you've got your high D ready to go. Now, if you blow a high D too hard, it'll blow very sharp, like that. So you must control your air and keep your airflow quite light. The next note that we will learn after D in this piece is A. Now, going from D to A is quite tricky. The fingers of D are here, and then to go to A, you have to cover the thumb and cover the first index finger of the left hand as well. So you've got a simultaneous movement of the index finger and the thumb covering the recorder from having not been covering it at all. So D, A. Now, that's the first two notes of the piece learned. Now, let's just practice once again, recap on what we've learned. We've learned how to do the steps of the stairs from B, A, G, F sharp, E, and D. Let's do that very slowly. I'd practice that many times. The next bit is to practice starting on a D, which is just the middle finger of the left hand. Everything else is off. And then you're moving to an A by simultaneously moving these two and covering the whole. D, A. And that's the end of that section. Practice that for another day or two before you go on to the next bit. Welcome back. And now we're on to the next section of our piece. Yesterday, or in the last video, we learned how to play B, A, G, F sharp, E, and D. And we also learned how to start the piece on high D and to go from high D to A. If you've mastered that and you're quite comfortable with it, it's time to move on to the next step. The third note in this piece is F sharp. Now, you've gone from D to A, and now you need to go from A down to F sharp. How many fingers does that involve moving? Well, F sharp involves the first three fingers in your left hand and the bottom two fingers in your right hand. So when you're going from A, you have to put three down, one on the left and two on the right. So now you need to practice that a couple of times. I would recommend doing this very slowly and leaving a very deliberate gap between your A and your F sharp initially, so that you don't have fingers landing at different times. You need to get used to simultaneous landing of fingers, which would produce a sound like rather than, and then maybe play a couple of A's and a couple of F sharps. Now, to get those three notes together, we'll start on the high D, which is here, then we're going to the A, which is here, and down to the F sharp. So, let's practice that now a couple of times. Do a few D's, a few A's, and a few F sharps. And if you can do that, we now have we have all the notes we need for the piece. This piece is in the key of D major. If you're a musician, that'll mean something to you. If you're not a musician, maybe you'll have come across tonic sulfur when you were young or when you're in school. Maybe you've encountered colour strings or the Kodai method, where do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do is used frequently. Or you may remember The Sound of Music, the movie where Do, a deer was helped to make the tonic sulfur system really quite famous. I'm going to sing this song for you in tonic sulfur, just so you can see how it goes. It starts on high D. Do, so, mi, fa, so, do, so, mi, fa, so, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. And then that line is repeated again. Do, so, mi, fa, so, do, so, mi, fa, so, across the hand signs that come along with tonic sulfur, in the Kodai method in particular, this might be of help. If this doesn't mean anything to you, don't worry about it. Just sing along to what I'm singing, to la, or hum it, or whistle it. It doesn't matter. But I'll do the hand signs just for the purposes of those for whom it might help. So high do is a fist. Do, so, mi, fa, so. Do, so, mi, fa, so. La, so, fa, mi, re, do. Now, if that's a help to you, great. And if not, these hand signs are just a method of associating a sound with a gesture. And if you start out learning music in this way, it can be very, very helpful. Possibly not a great idea to try and learn these hand signs now. Fundamentally, I'm just trying to teach you a tune by ear, but I'm using many different ways to get it into your head. Let's just sing the tune again, just to la la la. La 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 la. So now that we've sung the notes, we're going to learn to play the notes. So what are they? D, A, F sharp, G, A. D, A, F sharp, G, A, which sounds like this. B, A, G, F sharp, E, D. Or let's do the whole line together. And then that line would be repeated, because in this piece there are two lines and both lines are repeated once. On to the next line. So what do we have in the next line? Luckily, the last bit of the last line is the same as the last bit of the first line. So we only have a short phrase now to learn. The next note we need to start on is F sharp. So now instead of having all these descending phrases, which means going from high notes to low notes, we now have an ascending phrase. So what are these notes? F sharp, G, A, B, A, F sharp, G, A, B, A. Let's do this slowly. F sharp to G. How do we do that? We're lifting the two right hand fingers and just leaving the three of the left behind. F sharp to G, then A, and then B. Easy enough. So F sharp, G, A, B, A, F sharp, G, A, B, A, and once more. And then the last bit is exactly the same as the end of the first phrase, which is B, A, G, F sharp, E, D. So the whole of the second line goes like this, starting on F sharp. And now let's practice playing the whole piece. First line repeated once, second line repeated once. I'm going to give a cleaning blow to my recorder, and yes, you can see that some moisture did actually come out of the recorder, just to give us a nice clear sound to begin with. So we're going to begin on D. And now from D to F sharp, You just need to lift up this finger. And that's the beginning of, or the beginning to the end of the whole piece. I'm going to sing the second part in Tonic Sulfur, just so that if you're interested in Tonic Sulfur, you know how it goes. One more cleaning blow and I'll just get my note. So that's mi, mi, fa, sol, la, so, mi, fa, sol, la, so, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. It's now time for us to progress on to playing the whole piece with the recorder ensemble. The recorder ensemble I have recorded myself. So I've recorded myself playing with myself. I started with playing the bass line on a bass recorder. Then I added a treble line to that. Then I added a tenor line to that. And then I'm going to play the descant, this descant recorder, along with those 3 lower recorders to produce a 4-part recorder ensemble sound. I hope you enjoy playing this too, and maybe you'll be inspired to continue recorder studies and maybe even start a recorder ensemble of your own or join one sometime. And now we're ready to play with the recorder ensemble. So on my phone, basically I recorded all the other lines one against the other, and I've produced a recording of myself with myself, which we're going to play along with now. So here we go, enjoy. The recorder ensemble parts that I've provided, the movement of notes in the other parts is different to the notes that you're playing. So in some cases they're going bom, 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 but you're playing la, 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 la. So you've got a bouncy dotted rhythm where the recorders underneath you have a very solid kind of drum-like rhythm. So you need to follow the descant recorder line that I'm playing rather than get tied up with the rhythm of the other recorders that are being played underneath you. I will also provide the track of the other 3 parts with the videos so that you can then practice playing your descant recorder part on your own alongside that audio, and then you'll have the experience sort of playing in a recorder ensemble, and you won't be playing with me anymore on this. You'll be playing by yourself on the descant against the other 3 parts to make a 4-part ensemble in total. So we hope you enjoyed the video. We hope it's given you some inspiration for the European Day of Early Music, and hopefully you'll join us for some of our other events and the other early music events that are taking place with other early music societies around Ireland. For example, Limerick Early Music Festival and also East Cork Early Music Festival. There's loads of activities and videos and concerts online, so we encourage you to check them out and enjoy them. We hope to see you again soon.